acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I read a story about a southern church, and we all know that this time of the year in the southern states, it can get quite hot. This is cool in comparison. On this particular day, they had been in a really long stretch of a hot spell. And as the clergy person got up to preach, he noted that. He said to his congregation, "It's hot out there, isn't it?" And of course, they all agreed it was very hot. And he said, "Just remember, there's one place that's hotter." That was, I think, the shortest homily for a long time. You, on the other hand, aren't going to give way so easily. There's a lot going on in our scriptures, especially this morning. And I was kind of all over the place as I did my reading and reflecting. Where and what was I going to talk about this morning, given the gospel and the epistle and even the Old Testament? In the Old Testament, we hear God speaking about a place for him. In the epistle, we hear the writer of the epistle talking, in my view, of walls that divide. And then in the gospel, we hear about the disciples going out and healing and coming and telling Jesus what they had been doing, and people following Jesus wherever he went. A lot of times finding out where he was going to and being there before him. Some just to touch the hem of his cloak, we're told. So there's people who have caught the vision, who have caught the love that Jesus is teaching and preaching as he goes along. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. How many things divide us? It seems to me we put up a lot of walls in our societies. One, a lot of people keep to themselves. They put up walls because they don't want to let anyone else in. Okay, I'm very comfortable in my little space. This is where I'm going to stay. I don't want to hear about what's going on in the world. I'm happy just to be here in my little space. We put up walls when we perceive people as being different from ourselves. That could be many kinds of differences. It may be people with disabilities. It may be, like I said to the children, it may be young people versus older people. It could be gay people we put our walls up against. It could be the homeless, the people of our world who are hungry. How many times have you heard someone say, "Well, if they would just get a job"? Not so simple in today's world. One, the unfortunate thing is we live in a world where it seems to me it's more important for CEOs to earn these millions of dollars in salary than it is to pay people a living wage. Some people in our society pay up to 80% and more of their income just for their housing. Just for their housing. No wonder we need soup kitchens and food banks. The reality in this world is that there really shouldn't be anybody going hungry, because there is enough food for all if we just shared it. The other day, I was in one of my favorite little haunts having lunch. And I sat there, it was nice and quiet. And then this couple came in and sat right across from me, at the table right across from me. And when they first came in, there was quite a lot of noise, and the gentleman was shuffling a little bit, and he was slurring his words. And my first reaction was, oh, he sounds like he had been drinking. See, my first reaction. They sat down, and it was through their meal and ordering and all of that that I realized this gentleman had a disability. I'm not sure what it was, but his wife had to tell him what to do. She had to tell him, we were so close I could hear everything. And I tried it myself, because the first thing that I was wanting to do was put up a wall. They and me. Wrong. Very wrong. How many times do we do that without thinking even? So when I got up to leave, I said to the waitress, I would like to pay that couple's bill. And she looked at me kind of like I had two heads and said, pardon? I said, I'd like to pay their bill. She said, are you serious? I said, yes. I said, the only thing is I don't want you to tell them until after I leave. She started to cry. She said, I have never seen anybody do that before. And it reminded me, how many times are there people in our world that are struggling with something that we can't see, and we are blind to it? We are blind. We have walls that keep us from seeing and feeling what others are going through. On Wednesday, I got a call from a funeral home in St. Catharines. On Thursday morning, I did a service for a baby that was born still. Full-term pregnancy. They could see no reason all through the pregnancy. The mother had been healthy, the baby had been healthy, but for whatever reason, this baby had died. And as I sat with that mother, as she cradled her baby, this perfect child in her arms, my heart broke for her. We had to take the baby away from her so we could put the baby in the casket. And we would put up walls. We don't want to be connected with that. It hurts too much. If that happened to this family, it could happen to our family. And so we put up walls to protect ourselves. Yesterday was a beautiful day, good and hot. And I found myself standing in the cemetery at Pleasant View at 11 o'clock in the sun, beating down, doing a graveside service for for a 64-year-old woman. 64. She had been sick for 2 months. Her family didn't even have a chance to get their minds around her being sick, and she was gone. And again, we will put up walls, because once again, we're reminded, if this could happen to her, it could happen to me. And we don't want to think about that. We don't want to go there. We want to live in our comfortable homes, in our air conditioning, with all of our material things around us. We don't really want to think about what's going on in the world. Most of you know that one of my passions is affordable housing. And when I think of people who have to pay so much for housing that they can't afford to buy medicine for their children, it makes me ill. When I think of people who are living in the streets because they don't have a place to lay their heads, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. We can do better. We can do better for those people who need us. They need us, and they need us to do whatever it is we can to right the wrongs we see in society. You know, if we see someone with a broken arm or a broken leg that has a cast, we can lament with them, we can sympathize with them, because it's a visible wound we see. But how many people in our world, in our community, live with illnesses and wounds we can't see? Issues of depression, all kinds of that in today's society. But we would put up walls and say, they and we. When you think of this morning's gospel and the people following Jesus, they were following Jesus for a reason. A lot of them, yes, wanted to be healed. And they knew in their heart of hearts, if they but reached out their hand and touched his cloak, they would find that healing. How do we get that message across in today's world, where a lot of people don't even know what we're talking about when we talk about God and Jesus and healing and faith? I see it as our responsibility to go out there in the world and teach people what we do here. Not only what we do here, but what we're willing to do out there to make a difference in God's world. Quite often, the first thing we do is complain. Oh, well, you know, I don't have this or I don't have that, and I got to do this, and I have to do that. I've had some of my own family ask me, why are you so positive all the time? A couple of things I'd like to share with you. One, I believe it's my faith. And two, is I know myself to be blessed. I have the privilege of working with so many people who have such horrific things happen to them in their lives. The loss of a child. Never mind if that child was a babe in arms or a 64-year-old, those mothers both grieve the same way. And I have the privilege of people allowing me into their lives at these times. And it continually reminds me how blessed I am. It doesn't matter what I've experienced in my life, the hardships, it doesn't really matter when I look around. Because I can always find someone who has experienced far more than I have. So this week, as you go about your lives in this lovely weather, think about what kind of walls you put up to keep people out. And think about what you may... Oh, I think my battery just died. And think about what you might be able to do to bring some of those walls down. Help other people to realize it's not just about someone going out and getting a job. It's about paying people a fair wage. It's about affordable housing. It's about all of us caring for each other because we are all God's children. Each and every one of us are beloved children of God. And it's our job. It's our responsibility to go out into that world and teach other people how much we care. And we care and we love because God first loved us. And Jesus taught us about caring for others. And for that I say thanks be to God. Amen.